Kia ora and welcome to another video in the series aimed at teaching you how to play Riftbound step by step, hopefully getting you ready for your first Nexus 9. In today's video, we're going to be doing another game of random deck review, but I'm also going to be discussing a thing that's popped up a lot in the community pages that I'm on, which is how do you start playing Riftbound? Because it's all good and well watching these videos, getting these types of conversations happening between yourself and your friends, but if you don't have a way to really begin beyond the videos or the discussion, that's all it will ever be, and you never really start to understand the passion that can really come with a game such as this. And so I'm going to quickly move over to the wheel screen where we're going to be rolling 2. And I'm going to talk about that because, well, I'm going to talk about how I started playing, which is I began in around November of last year. So I missed the starting by a little bit, but that is okay. Sorry, I've just got to find the Lillia HyperAggro full guide. So it's always good to know that the Lillia will have a full guide if you're ever interested in looking at it in the future. But I rock up to my local game store and I said, hey, I want to begin. Where do I go? And so they recommended a few things. They gave me a general oversight of Poppy Riftfield cheating, eh? I wonder what they're going to be playing in their deck. And they gave me a general overview of what the general style of, well, I say general, they gave me an overview of the ideas behind Riftbound. What is it? How do you play? What's the fun of it? Why do you want to play certain things? What are some archetypes that you could be really interested in? And after that, I then went to another store and I bought, I think, I bought 2 starter kits and opened those, and it was really good fun. Then I went and bought a 3rd starter kit because I was like, I want the collection, you know, started my collection early. And then I bought some packs, and that was great. And then supply dried up very quickly. And so for me, the only way to continue growing my supply was going to Nexus nights. And so I went to 1 to 2 Nexus nights every week for a couple months up until I think Spirit Forge released. We'll go Dusk Rose. And after that, supply became more available, so I started only going to 1 Nexus night a week, and then sometimes I would skip a Nexus night if I just wasn't feeling it. But the moral of the story here is I began out of necessity because I wanted to continue growing my collection. I wanted to continue having the opportunity to play with new cards, experience the game in different ways. And my first month, and probably month and a half actually of playing, was complete and utter 0-2s. I did not win a single match, let alone game, forever. It was not until while I was playing Ari, because I started on Kai'Sa, I moved on to Ari because I really liked Ari in League of Legends. It was not until I started playing Ari that I actually won my first game, and it was in a mirror match against another Ari, and I had been playing for quite some time, and so I decided to, this was because we were both at the very bottom of the ladder, we had both already gone 0-2, I think we were actually 0-2 out of 3 games for that night. We both decided to just make it fun, and so we're having a full conversation while we played, much like I'm having now, where you just talk while you play because both of you know what you kind of need to get done in order to do, like, just play the game. Then for 1, 2, 3, 4, Lily will tap a sprite, and I'll move over to the spectator's screen for us so we can continue witnessing on the big screen. Lillia's legend, by the way, is play a ready 3 sprite type, but it costs 1 energy less for each other hidden friendly unit with temporary. So it costs 4. It comes in ready. It moves over here. It goes to 2, and they pass. In reality, I should have swapped it so that the Lonely Porro wasn't at the Dusk Rose lab, and the temporary unit would have been at Dusk Rose in order to get the draw 1 without having to kill the unit. But it's okay. We learn. But I started playing, and from there I had a really fun amount of time just kind of figuring out how to play the game. It was by no means an easy game to learn. Tap 3, recycle 1, bring out Shen at reaction speed. So Shen is an original ambush unit, but cannot be played... Oh, sorry, it can only be played to a battlefield you control, so we don't actually bring him out, and this stays in base. For 3, and recycle 1, we actually play a Galio. Just thinking if I want to poppy spell the Lonely Porro to the into the opponent's hand again, because that way it doesn't get the tempo from it, and the alternative is we don't get another unit out this turn unless we're here to help out Shen, but we'd still have to pay its energy, so recycle 2 to get out another big unit, or recycle 2 in order to get rid of a unit and conquer. Well, we'll have to recycle in order to bring out, get rid of the Lonely Porro, and they will choose to put it to the top of their deck. And that will resolve, this Soaring Scout will go and move to it. Anyway. And so my necessity came from, like, that's where I started playing, just had to dive into it. I was very shy about it, but obviously you kind of just move on and everyone is there to have a good time, so why shouldn't you be? For 3 we'll bring out Lillia. But the other part of it, obviously, is not everyone is going to be as confident in beginning, and that's okay. Some people will take a little longer to get comfortable with playing the game, especially in groups, and some people will not take any time at all and they'll swing right into it and they'll be the center of attention. But either way, you're going to have a time where you're kind of just going to want to begin. And the easiest way for you to just begin is sometimes it's such as this, where you play online, you get an idea for it, but it's not as fun. And the reality is playing online is all good and fun until you... Sorry, finish up the turn. Cool. Playing online is all good and good and well, but the problem with playing online, obviously, is you don't get the same experience as playing over the board, you don't get to have the same conversations, and part of the best part about Riftbound is learning through talking. And what I mean by that is, in an over-the-board situation, you will talk to your opponent a lot, because you're there, you're going to spend probably an hour sitting across from them, and you're just going to talk about the game. Sometimes you will talk about other parts of the game. Maybe if it's a 0-1 situation or a 1-0, like you've played a game already, you'll talk about the previous game. If it's you're in game 3, you'll talk about the previous 2 games. You might be asking how they went. If it's such as now, where the Vendetta is fairly new, you might talk about if their focus is... Sorry, I just clicked my fingers. If their focus is going to be on anything in particular for the set, if they're after anything. Not for the sake of trades, obviously, but more, or maybe for the sake of trades, but more just you are there to talk and have fun, and so the only downside that you can do by doing that is simply not interacting with the opponent and having a terrible time for it. So for 5, we're bringing out a Sprite Burst, make 2 sprites. They'll both be ready. That will resolve, and because we have 3 temporaries, we have 1, 2, 3, we'll tap Lillia for 1 and create an additional sprite, and then we'll move all 3 into here. That will be 9 into 6. This doesn't deal combat damage, so unfortunately these, well, unfortunately for the Poppy, they won't die, and the Lillia goes to 5. And then we'll move the Lillia over here, and another temporary sprite will be made to base because of the Lillia's abilities. There's 5 temporaries right now, pretty terrifying. And pass. But on that note, that is my recommendation for any person who's wanting to really begin, is find a local card game shop and ask them, hey, look, do you have Nexus Knights? What's the policy? What's the procedure? Because some will be like, oh yeah, no, we've got like a hobby knight, a Nexus Knight. Is quite competitive, and so if you're really wanting to begin learning, it'll be fine, but you're probably going to lose a lot. And then you get somewhere it's like, oh, you know, we have a local hobby night. It's really good fun. It's not too competitive. People just kind of come after work and play, especially if it's like a weekday. But obviously the pricing will still be good, so some people will be there just to win. And that's okay, you'll always have those people. But the other part is they might just offer you, say, hey look, A, we've got maybe bulk that you can have a go at, so you can start beginning your commons uncommons collection. And B, they might be like, oh, I have a starter deck that you can learn, and I'll teach you how to play right now. And we can have a game over the board, and that way you can get your first experience. Because much like swimming, you can read and watch and think about everything when it comes to swimming, but until you actually perform the action, it's a different story overall. You cannot learn just by watching. You can learn certain things by watching, but you cannot learn just by watching. Some things are only from doing. Because the Lillia is at 5 points, the Poppy's Legend Chosen Champion will come in ready, Paragon. And very uncomfortably, I think I do just have to tap to recycle an orange to play Here to Help to bring out a Shen for 1 Order Rune Resolve and pass. And this will die, draw 1. These 3, 4 will die. Back over to the Lillia, who will move away, creating a sprite at that battlefield for moving. Tap 2 to play a Lonely Porro to base. Tap 2 to play a Brutalizer. Tap 3 to play a Lillia to base. Pass. But no, I think it can be very terrifying for a lot of people beginning their journey when it comes to playing Riftbound. But after doing the Learn to Play, the best thing I can really say to them, or anyone who wanted to start playing, was A, pick up something from Origins or Spiritforge with a bit of an easier rule set than provided in Unleashed and Vendetta. But also just kind of find a friend who's wanting to learn with you. Because if you have a friend who already knows how to play, that's really cool. You're going to have a great time as they're going to teach you. But if you've got a friend who wants to learn with you, it's going to be even more enjoyable because you're both going to make the same mistakes. And what I mean by that is literally that. You are both going to make the same mistakes because part of the game is learning from your mistakes. Pass. The other part of it is if you don't have anyone that is in your local group or in your friend group that wants to play, such as myself, while my partner, she wanted to maybe play a few games, she didn't get that into it, you will make friends very quickly at these kind of card groups because you will learn that these people, although they have different walks of life, you will never know the type of people you'll interact with at these events and that you'll become great friends with until you're there, and they become a very good part of your week, because if you're enjoying yourself, even if you're losing and you're focusing on just having a good time, your interests will be very much so aligned with theirs of I'm here to have a good time, and because of that we are just going to have fun. So I'm just gonna, so that goes up to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 5 will walk into the Shen. Shen is a 5 with tank, and this is a 5. And that will trade out. And then this 8, this 3, they'll both leave sprites behind at this battlefield. Should have gone 1 and 1, but it's a 3. A 5, this is a 7, so that's 12 against 11 for 1 on guard. That should have gone in 1, 1, 1 because the on guard would have been a bit better. And then for 3, recycle 1, temporary, double this unit's might to 16, resolves, and the Poppy will lose both units. The Lillia will get a point for the conquer at this battlefield. Then for 1, 2, sorry, just 1, create another sprite for this one. Be ready, moves into the Altar of Unity, scores to 7. Pass. And the other thing I'm seeing a lot of is, where do I begin? Because obviously, you know, learn how to play is great. It's, you know, you start learning, but what kind of deck do you play? I started with red-blue with Kaiser, then I moved on to the green-blue with Ari. Then during Spirit Forged, I played red-blue again with Rumble, before jumping back to Ari. And then in Unleashed, I moved to Kha'Zix, and then I moved to Jhin. So I've stuck with red-blue for quite some time, and in the most recent set, I'm playing Mel, which is blue-purple. So I haven't had a large amount of experience when it comes to orange or yellow. And so my experience with those colours have been from teaching people how to play the game, but also doing this, where I just play a random deck every couple of days, or sometimes multiple in a single day. There is nothing that the Poppy can do, and so they'll be dead, and we'll go into game 2. But the other part is, once you verse enough people enough times, you will realise that you'll learn what they want to achieve as quickly as they will learn what you want to achieve. And that's part of the fun of Riftbound as well, is sometimes, yes, it's important to have a strong balance of, you know, you don't want to shoehorn yourself into a single archetype too much, but at the same time, you do want to at least have a fighting chance. Key barrier will probably be good. And we'll get rid of Atakan. And we'll get rid of 1 Death Grip. And we'll go over the God Bullet. And they'll go first. Maybe not 2 Rift Heralds, but otherwise they like those hands. Cool. Starting hand for them, 2, pass. Starting hand for them, 2, pass. Move into the Grove with God below. Recycle 1. Feral, a Fallen Feline, has a really interesting one where it says, you know, if I'm at a battlefield, if I move over here actually, when I move to a battlefield, name a spell, when you play me name a spell while I'm at a battlefield, opponents can't play that spell. The opponent in these circumstances, what did they see last turn? They saw Last Stand, obviously. They saw On Guard. They saw Sprite Burst. And so they'll name Sprite Burst. They'll say, you know what, you do not get to play Sprite Burst while I'm at a battlefield. And we can now see that because it's got a note, and if you hover over it, just next to the very bottom, it says Sprite Burst. Oh, in a real game, you just have to remember that. And then pass. The 1, 2, 3, 4 for a Sprite readied. Tap. Move the sprite. We'll move the sprite in. Tap 1 on Garda up to 5. Mostly because the opponent, if they Hidden Blade this, well, the Lillia gets to draw, and if they Hidden Blade either of these, so if they Hidden Blade that, it wouldn't be a trade anymore. This sprite is winning regardless of what happens next. And so for 2, recycle 1, we will Hidden Blade, but we will choose the sprite. And so the sprite will die, the Lillia draws 2 cards, and the Lonely Porra will move over here, scoring to 1. So they're both a 1. But my recommendation for any person who wants to learn how to play the game is I would stick with Lee Sin, Victor, Jinx. I would maybe consider Rumble if you wanted to learn about tribes or archetypes. Vi is also really exciting as a design. Obviously Vi is in Unleashed, but she does introduce some really interesting mechanics. Fiora, I've had some people say I started with Fiora, it was alright, but it didn't feel good. But I can kind of see it going either way. It really depends on your playstyle. But that is kind of my general summary of if you want to learn how to play Riftbound, what do you do? Unfortunately, it's just a little bit of begin. Such a cop-out, I know. But it is definitely one of those things where 3 recycle 1 plus. Where if you do just begin, by the way, the opponent cannot play Sprite Burst because currently that is in the battlefield. If you do just begin, you often find yourself very quickly realizing how much fun it can be just having a community to play alongside. And the Riftbound community at this stage is still incredibly new in the grand scheme of things. You will have people who will say, oh, you know, I'm coming from 10 years of TCG experience and all that kind of stuff. And you say, well, that's really cool. I hope that you will be really helpful in helping me learn how to play the game. Sorry, I'm having a vitamin C to stay healthy. Right, moves in as a 3+1 4. Against this, these will both die. Channel 1 Rune twice, exhausted, because the Soaring Scout died, which is Channel 1 Rune exhausted, but Carthus is out, so it triggers twice. The Sprite will also die. And Fituar Brutalizer comes out and pass. If we wanted, we could have also used Charm to bring the Carthus to this battlefield and trade it out for the Lonely Poro, because it would be attacking and defending alone. That's okay. 3 for a Black Rose Dignitary. Misorder. 2. Confront, draw 1. 3 recycle 1. Galio comes out ready, moves his battlefield. We should have also made a experience when we held, and I'll just do that now. Lillia goes up to 3, and the Galio conquered to 3, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Double Sprite, no, well, 1 Sprite Burst, double Sprites. If either of these move in, they go up to 4. If they move in together, it's a 6, it'd be a trade. But for 1, 2, and a tap, a 3rd Sprite can come out, and we'll see all 3 Sprites move over to here. And that will kill the Galio, and the Sprites will survive, and that'll be a conquer to 4. Plus 1, 2. 4 confront again. Draw 1. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2 Black Rose Dignitaries come out. Both have a death knell. Channel 1 run exhausted. They'll be 3s because they're assault. And so the first one will move over to here. The Poro will die. They will draw 1. And the Poppy will score. Then the second will also move to this battlefield and pass. 3 Sprites will die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sprite Burst, 2 more Sprites come out. First one moves to here, scores to 5. This one first gains Brutalizer, going up to 6, then moves in solo, attacking, so it goes to 7. These are both 2s, there's nothing the opponent can do, and so they will die, channeling 4 runes exhausted. And the Lillia scores to 6. Then they'll tap 6 in order to bring out both Lillia's to base and pass. Well, the obvious answer right now would be Ruination, because while we would lose the Carthus, the Ruination would just remove all opportunities for the Lillia to potentially double conquer unless they have a 3rd Sprite Burst or another Sprite Call. Rift Herald can't come out accelerated. Just realised also here to help, I shouldn't have done that last turn, where it says it needs to be to a battlefield you control, and so we couldn't have done that Shen trigger, and so thankfully it wasn't the deciding point, but uncomfortably nonetheless. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. and recycle 3 to play Ruination. Ruination will wipe the board of all units, not gear and otherwise. Then with 3 remaining, the card this size as well, the Poppy will pass. The Lillia will begin by tapping 4. Ready Sprite. Moves into the Grove of the Godwillow. At action speed, tap to recycle 2. The Keeper's Verdict targets a unit at a battlefield. The owner places it to the top and bottom of the main deck, but because of the sprite, it can do neither, and so that will resolve with that dying. Couldn't have played Defy because it costs 2 energy and 2 power, not 2 energy, 1 power. And none of these other cards would have done anything. So the Lillia will now pass over to the Poppy, who for 8, recycle 1, bring out Rift Herald. Could have played actual Poppy, so this would have been a 5. Actually, let's bring that back to hand. Ready everything. Channel 1 rune. We're at 9. We bring out the Poppy, comes in ready, moves to the Grove. Here to help would reduce the cost of something by 3. This would cost us 2, so we'd have 5 to play with, so unfortunately not enough, but we'll instead do that regardless. We'll score to 5. And then we will recycle 1 in order to hide Here to Help at this battlefield, and we'll pass. It is now the Lillia's turn. They pulled a charm, so for 1, 2, 3, 4, and the Lillia Legend, they'll bring in a sprite. Then for 1, recycle 1, they're going to charm that Poppy back to base. The Poppy is then going to resolve Here to Help, but it will fizzle because this reduces the cost of something by 3, and for 4, that would only give them 7. This is an 8, so that will fizzle. Poppy will go back to base. Then the sprite will move over to here, and for 2, recycle 2. Keeper's Verdict will come out, and that will discard the sprite again. And it's another pass from Lillia. Over to Poppy, who will move their Poppy to the Grove of the Godwillow and score to 6. Then for 8, recycle 1, a Rift Herald will come out as well. Rift Herald has when I move to a battlefield, not when I am played, but it has a death knell of play a unit from your hand to base. But it's more of just big unit at this moment. Over to the Lillia, they finally find another unit besides a sprite. But they make another sprite and move it over to the Seat of Power, in which they will conquer to 7. And then for 2, we will swap the location of these 2 units with Smoke and Mirrors, because we have 2 units at a different location, and one of them is temporary. We draw 1. And then we're going to do it again with Smoke and Mirrors. It does say that if at least one of them has temporary, move each other to each other's location and draw 1. It's an interesting card because by wording, you choose a unit you control and another unit you control at a different location, so 2 different locations, and then if it has temporary, you swap them, but if it doesn't have temporary, you just draw 1, which is a very fascinating wording of the card in some ways. And then pass. Over to Poppy, who will hold to 7 and draw an additional card for Grove of the Godwillow. They also get an additional experience for holding the turn. For 1, we'll play Sacrifice, targeting the Poppy Paragon. I just realized also we're meant to gain 3 experience for playing her, so if we add that on now, and then we spend those 3 experience and exhaust her, we should have an additional draw, and it's an Ambassador. So we'll continue with the Sacrifice on the Rift Herald instead now. And the Rift Herald Death says play a unit from your hand ignoring its cost, but you must still pay its power. So that will die. We'll draw to channel 1. The Death now will let us play Ambassador to this battlefield. Then for 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll play an additional Ambassador to base, and then for 1, 2, 3, recycle 1. We will empower the Ambassador at the battlefield, which is +3 and can't be dealt damage unless in combat. And then we'll pass over to Lillia, whose sprite will die. They'll move the Poro over to this battlefield, they'll draw to 1. Then they will tap 1, recycle 1 in order to charm that Poppy over to this battlefield, in which a showdown will begin. Then for 1, an on guard will be played, increasing the Lonely Poro's might to 4. Then an additional will occur, up to 6. There is nothing that their Poppy can respond with, except for, at reaction speed, kill their own unit to channel 1, draw 2. And so the Lonely Poro will win, and the Poppy will die. But there is nothing more that the Lillia can do besides tap this for 1, 2, 3, 4. Sprite out. 1, 2, 3. Double a friendly unit's might, but we'll first attach this, so this goes to 12. Then this will move in, going to 13, and unfortunately the Ambassador is a 7 and will die, and the Lillia scores to 8. Interesting. I see that. I kind of slept on the last stand just then. Last stand was sitting in hand. I was going, I don't really know how I'm going to use this, but obviously it came out very, very nicely, and both games are massively underutilized card in so many ways because, well, sprites are already temporary, and this does not require you to have it not temporary, unlike certain cards that are saying if it isn't temporary, give it temporary, such as Shadow's Call. That was a fascinating game. Obviously, I was hoping a little more from the Poppy on that one, but there's a reason that Poppy does so poorly at the moment, because you either play her for Dazzling Aurora, or Baited Hook, or somewhere in between, but she's slowly but surely going to find some form of archetype that really benefits her. I know this has been a bit of a jumbled video. I know that hopefully either you have been interested in the commentary or the gameplay, and obviously around the end it turned into gameplay commentary. But long story short, I think that if you are interested in starting to play, feel free to just talk to one of your local card shops. They're there to support you. They are there to teach people how to begin playing the game, because at the end of the day, it's about learning. It's about having a fun experience and trying your hardest to learn how to play, because if you aren't learning, you're not going to begin winning. I know there's always the meme of like people who have ADHD, like as soon as they're not good at something, we'll give something up, but it unfortunately is one of those games where if you're feeling like you're not good at it, that's okay. There are some people who are incredibly gifted at this game, and there are some people like myself who enjoy playing the game for fun, and they will lose constantly to people who are playing for the first time, because at the end of the day, if you can teach someone how to play the game, and you can teach them how to have fun playing that game, that's all really that should matter. But at the same time, if you have fun winning, go for meta, go to play, go to be competitive, and ask for advice. Because at the end of the day, your opponent is going to give you much more consistent advice on how to win than yourself, because you're going to be too critical or you're going to be too confident. A great example of this is on last Tuesday. Me and my opponent, it was game 3, we sat there for 5 minutes, open hands, just talking about what ways he could win. And we did a lot of math, we did the reviews, we had people come by and talk about what was happening, and then they would give their input. And by the end of it, we talked about how, like, what was the missing pieces? Was it just one room? Was it, one card? Did you need to spend that card but then, or did you need to spend it now? And the unfortunate reality for them and me was that I won and ended up losing the next game, and they lost and then win the next game. So it's one of those fun times where people, even your opponents, are going to be there to help you, and the exception to that will obviously be the high competitive events in which either money or big prizes are on the line. But even then, I've had some great conversations with people at those times. Anyway, I hope this has been informative. I know it's not the regular screened, televised programming, but I will be doing another random deck review before going into Banish Mel 4.0. So if the Banish Mel series is something that you're interested in, feel free to keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next video.